What's up, everybody? Pierre Quinn here. You are joining us for another episode of Courageous Conversations Live. And my guest on this episode of Courageous Conversations is my friend, Dr. Delroy Brooks. Sir, thanks for hanging out with us today.
Man, I appreciate the opportunity to hang out with you. Anytime I can hang out with the great Pierre Quinn, leadership strategist extraordinaire, I'm going to take advantage.
Man, I'm going to have to cash app you for that affirmation, man. Thanks for hanging out with us. Thanks you for checking us out on Facebook, on LinkedIn Live, and also on YouTube. We'd like you to do a couple of things. One, hit that share button. That's really important. These leadership conversations are really insightful, and I don't want anyone to miss them. And the second thing that I need you to do is in the comment section, give us a shout out. We'd love to connect with you and to learn more about you and what you're doing. So we got Paul Graham, the great PG.
Yes, sir.
Pastor Paul Graham checking in on LinkedIn, and we have other people dropping in as well. So, man, Dr. Brooks.
Yes, sir.
Help us out, man. On the banner underneath your name, it says D-Miss.
Yeah.
Some people have no idea what that means. Give us the framework of what a D-Miss, what a doctorate in this particular area is.
It is, I'll tell everyone, simply put, it's the study of missions.
Okay.
And I was blessed to attend Fuller Theological Seminary a number of years ago. And while there, I was studying in their School of Intercultural Studies. I think they've changed the name of the school now. Mm-hmm. But at that time, what we were studying was missions. And when I went into the cohort, I was a youth pastor.
Okay.
So while most of the people in my cohort were studying specific, if you want to call it, one culture jumping into another culture, a Kenyan studying in Nigeria, a Nigerian studying in Australia or whatever, trying to discover those different cultures, I just decided, well, the culture that I will always look back and study is youth culture. I'm always paying attention to what's happening among my youth, young people, especially in the urban settings. Yeah. So that became my mission. That's what I look into all the time. And now I'm getting a bit older. Sometimes I got that, old man, get off my lawn type of idea and mentality, but I'm still studying. I'm still trying to learn so much from what young people are able to put out there. And so that's what that is. A doctor of missiology, simply put, a study of mission, another culture.
Man, this is great. This is great. I know many of you are going to enjoy this conversation. Feel free to check in with us in the comment section. It's going to be really important for us to engage. And if you got some questions for Dr. Brooks, feel free to throw those in the comment section during our chat. So let's turn back the hands of time just a little bit. You mentioned your work as a youth pastor. And you got a pretty storied professional career. Kind of turn back the hands of time and give us, the Cliff Notes version of what your professional journey has been like all the way up to where it is now.
Oh, wow. Oh, that's a whole lot. But because we're trying to do the Cliff Notes version, I'm old enough to be telling you about my life in decades. First decade, second decade. So we'll start around the second decade. As a young person in my church, I was extremely active in all of the youth events, right? Mm-hmm. And as a teen, I can remember being a part of children's choir. And then we created a youth choir. And from the youth choir, there was a young adult choir. And then there's the church choir, the choir that's, labeled church choir is basically shorthand for all the old people. I go away to school. I'm blessed to go to an HBCU, Oakwood College at that point, now university. And there is where my eyes were completely opened, because I recognized that what I saw at my local church was not unusual. There are people doing stuff at even bigger levels, and there were young people doing these things, right?
Yeah.
So I leave Oakwood, I go back home to New York, and there I immediately jump right back in. I just want to work with young people. So I'm working with the teen boys. I get married. I'm having the teen boys at my house on Friday nights, cutting hair and talking to them about making good decisions. Yeah. Just something I wanted to do, because when I was a teen, there was someone I could look to. There wasn't a lot, but there were a couple of men that I could look to that guided me, and I wanted to be that kind of influence. So now we are in my third decade. During the third decade, I get married. I start working upstate New York, in Orangeburg, New York, for what then was Bell Atlantic 9X Mobile. And I'm moving through the chain of command, just one job to the next. Finally, as I get a supervisory position, I'm coaching, I'm teaching a little bit there at the job. And one day I'm sitting at my desk and I'm just like, I'm just not completely into this. Yep. This is not doing it for me. Yep. At the same time, my wife is also, at the same time, there's a bunch of things that happen, but I got to insert this here because of our mutual friend now, a guy by the name of YB. I bring a young man to my church to do a week of prayer. His name is Eric Thomas. Yep. Eric Thomas at that time had a ministry called Break the Cycle. Mm-hmm. We did not have the funds to put him up for the week. So Eric, his two kids, his friend LaDon Daniels, all stay at my house that week. And while they are there, my wife is completely enamored with his story and going into ministry full time. So once they leave us for the next 6 months, my wife is talking about this, and I'm completely not trying to hear it. You can go all you want. She finally gets to the point where she's like, she wants to go to study ministry full time. I'm like, that's great. We just had some issues with our home. Everything was going better now. I'll give you the money to go. I'll come up on the weekends that I can. ... is what my intention was. And she's like, no, we are supposed to go. And I was like, no, we are not. But I was silly enough to say, let's pray about it. Fast forward to a year, we're selling our house and leaving everything that we can't carry. And we're going to Andrews University in Michigan to study ministry full time. There I get a master's of youth ministry, because that was what I was into. And everything I did there had to do with studying youth culture, youth ministry. That's what my thing was. And I do that. We leave and we are then jettisoned to the opposite coast of California, where I currently reside for the last 15 years. And I worked for 8 years as a youth and young adult pastor, putting on youth events, being participatory in youth events. And so that's always been a part of what I was doing. At the point where I felt like I was at my lowest as it regarded to ministry engagement, I began the doctoral work to keep the juices flowing, if that makes sense. And some of you might be aware of that. And you get to a point where you're like, I don't know if what I'm doing is valuable anymore, or what can I do to improve me so I will be more valuable. And that's what put me into the doctoral journey. Once there, we did our work there, completed, and dissertation, and that's what our book is, a streamed down version of our dissertation as it relates to my story going through as I started out with what happened in my teen years.
So, man, a lot of things here, Dr. Brooks, for us to pull at. One, if people missed it in the conversation, as you're watching on Facebook, on LinkedIn, or YouTube, or actually watching the replay of this, you intersected with, currently, depending on the list that you look at today, Eric Thomas is listed as one of the top motivational speakers in the world. And you intersected with him in his story when he was in college, and this is a far cry from where he is now. Right? Super far cry. But it was something about that experience that was a catalyst for your wife. I want to talk about really quickly taking that, maybe we could call it risk, that transition, that pivot from something comfortable. You've done it a couple of times in your career, from something comfortable to something uncomfortable or challenging. You left upstate New York, the career there, to go to do theological studies, and then even making the transition to do doctoral studies. Like, what a lot of us have those those feelings in our career where we're like, I want to do something else, but fear comes in and comfort comes in. What do you say to people who are maybe at a similar crossroads? It's a major opportunity, but it's going to really dump them out of their comfort zone.
Right. What I tell people, and I have to tell anyone who listens to me, I always say I don't fear anyone, but I do fear situations, because as a Black man in this world, we recognize there's a lot riding on us.
Oh, yeah.
In Ibram Kendi's book, talking about how to be anti-racist, there's this idea that every one of us as African-American males in these United States, whenever we attempt to do anything, actually feel like we've got the burden of our community on our shoulders. And we don't want to make the mistake that will make the community look bad. And he posits that we should not take on that weight, but it's still there in Isabel Wilkerson's book, talking about caste. She reflects on that same idea that so many of us walk with this burden on our shoulders that we don't want to mess it up. So I want to give every person some freedom right now. You can't mess up all of everybody in the race because you made a wrong decision. And this is the thing. There are no wrong decisions unless you are trying to harm yourself or harm someone else. All of your decisions, you're either going to win or you learn. You're going to gain or begin learning about how to gain. That's what our decisions are. So if you no longer put your decisions in the win or lose or win or fail, then no matter what happens, you have an opportunity for growth. The second thing is, if you are like me and you're not always, everything got to line up for me in order for me to make a decision. It got to be, I got to see all the dots. And the challenge more often, especially as a faith leader, is that I got to be the example. I can't say y'all got to have faith and then I don't show none. So I had to take the step. I had to make, and even my last step, which was I was going to walk away from ministry altogether. I was tired of it. That was in around 2012, 2013. And I remember talking to my senior pastor, who was actually younger than me. I was talking to him about saying, I'm going to give up on this thing altogether. I'm going to see what else I can do. And this was going to be the biggest or the most dangerous aspect, because then I was giving up on employment. But I was at I was at a place where, like, I can't keep doing things like this anymore. And some of you might be dealing with that at times as well. So this is what I actually did. He counseled me in this regard. He said, why don't you take 30 days? And he said, fast and pray. I would tell anyone else outside of the spiritual realm, take 30 days and meditate, or take 30 days and just think about really walking whatever your next decision is going to be, and cogitate, think about that thing. Because whether you are a faith person or a believer in the consciousness of the world, or just thinking about things, there is something to visualizing and then walking into the vision. Yeah. So if you just think about whatever that thing is in that 30 days, this is what I would tell you to do. Write down what you want. Just write it down. When I was 17, 18, I wrote down the things that I wanted in the world. I can't even find the list. I don't know what happened to it, but it still sticks out in my mind that at 18, I wrote down what I wanted by 30. And would you know, without me ever revisiting that list, by the time I was 30, I had achieved everything I had written down on that list. Wow. Now, you can call it whatever you want. Yeah. I recognize that there is power in at least putting it in your mind to start thinking in the direction you want to go. Because there's a strange way about how the body is made up. I'm sorry, you told me not to be churchy, but
no,
the Bible gives this.
On LinkedIn.
I can't help it. The Bible gives this admonition in Psalm 139 that we are fearfully and wonderfully made. And in amazing way that we've been made scientifically and physically and socially, that when we put our thoughts in our heads, when we concentrate on the things that would do us good, we tend to do good. When we think about things that we want to do better at, we tend to do better at them. So I would encourage anybody who is struggling with making a decision. One, take the time. Take time, whether it's a week. I took 30 days, but take specific time to think about that thing. Write down what you want out of it, and then watch to see what the next what will happen for you next. Hopefully, I feel like I talked a long time there.
You were all right. You released somebody on that.
Yes, sir.
You released. They were not scrolling through LinkedIn trying to get their devotional message today, but y'all just got it. All right, you can just go ahead and respond in the comment section.
Yes, sir.
You said that you were a youth pastor at the time, and your senior pastor was younger than you.
Yes.
Yeah, we got to work with this just a little bit. Let's talk about the tension. The tension in the faith world, in the nonprofit world, in the corporate world, the tension of that we find in leadership, in not always willing to allow people who are younger than us to have certain maybe positions or maybe a certain amount of input. How have you seen that navigated for you? I mean, your whole dissertation on looking at the culture, at youth culture.
Right.
And working in a context where your senior pastor on the org chart is younger than you, but giving you advice and counsel that you leaned into.
Right.
What's the danger that we have in not taking those opportunities, and what's your advice for us?
My challenge always, and I say this often to my colleagues, which normally are younger than me. I say, listen, I've lived before coming into ministry. I experienced the world. And I think this is probably the greatest drawback for young people who experience greatness early. There's a book that I cannot remember the name of the author right now. I can't even remember the title of the book because it just escaped me. But it speaks to the fact that we are in this world believing that younger is better, when actually it is those who've acquired knowledge and skills over time that are able to hold on to it for longer, and in the long run will actually do better. But because of this media and microwave world, we keep thinking you got to do everything younger, faster, better. But this is because, all of the sports we watch, sports are dominated by young people. But even now we're starting to see people in sports play longer and get older. Now, even at the oldest, I'm still looking at them as young people to me, but there is value to knowing how the world works and working smart instead of hard in order to achieve long-term success. But for anyone who is a young leader, if you're a young leader, the first thing you need to do is find someone who is older than you. They don't have to be in your field. They don't have to even be in your city, but find someone older than you that you can bounce things off of simply because of their life experience. A guy named Krebs has a book called Reverse Mentoring about young people pouring into older people so that we at the upper levels chronologically will still have a connection to those who are younger and be able to be mutually beneficial. We keep talking all the time about mentoring, and it's always about this idea that I, as an older person, will mentor the younger, and it's a one-way relationship. But no, mentorship ought to be a two-way relationship. The same way I am able to pour into you, you should be able to pour into me. I'm learning this lesson now with my 15-year-old son, to whom I had to yell at this morning. But as a result, we are now going to we working out how he can teach me about his age group, his friends, what they're into. I can't just shut it down because that ain't the way we used to do it. So what? That's fine. But I need to know what the value is of what they're doing now, and how does that connect us together. So that's what I would tell you. Young leaders, make sure you get somebody who is older than you. They don't even have to be in your profession, but just to bounce things off of, because life experience, it's for most of us, it has been a great teacher. But even for those of us who've got some bumps, bruises, scars, and T-shirts to show what we've been through, there's a wealth of knowledge that's around that. From our generation, I'm a Gen Xer. My generation is not always willing to share information because we feel we got the raw end of the deal. Out of all of the generational studies being done, Xers are the smallest group. We got the least of everybody, and then we're expected to be able to we're supposed to be at the forefront of everything right now. And we watching boomers who don't want to retire and millennials who are coming for our necks. So it's like, what are we supposed to do? We mentor, we work with them, we collaborate so that we all can eat, as they say.
So why focus your dissertation on, I know you're studying youth culture, but why focus your dissertation and ultimately the book that you put out? I need you to give us the title and where to find that, on developing young leaders.
Because at the time, my issue within the church, this was 2010, 2013 is where I was. At that time in the world, we are looking at a number of old leaders. And my question was, and this is actually because of the church, why isn't the church more of an influencer in the development of our leaders in our communities, in business, in wherever? How is it that we've lost what was very prevalent in the 60s, that young people would go to their church for that's where the community meeting was going to happen for the next protest. It was at a church. That's where tutoring took place, at the church. That's where small businesses got together to be able to support one another, at the church. What is it about the current timeline that we're in that the church seemingly has lost its relevance? Now, there's a number of things that you can point to and spaces in history that we can look at and say, well, this is the thing or that's the thing. But I, in my book, came up with a way that I think no matter where you are in your leadership journey, that you can satisfy development for leaders wherever they are. I just particularly speak to young people in a churchy context. But if I walk outside of the church, I can do this same process. Doesn't matter who it is that we can work with in developing leadership within them. Part of the what I push toward, or that I posit, is and again, beginning of my story, I told you that I was at a church where we had 4 choirs. And this is how the title of the book is Restoring the Music, Developing Leadership for African-American Young Adults in the Local Context, right? And it's because when I was a kid, and if you attend any church now, you will find that it's probably got a praise team, but we don't see choirs anymore. And when we do see choirs, we're all like, "Oh man, remember when?
Yeah.
Even today in 2021, that's how we think." And in my head, I'm like, why is that? When we were younger, or when I was younger, it was an obvious transition from, you go from children's choir to youth choir, young adult choir, old people choir. And you knew that. It was, you got to a certain age, you were out of that group and into this group. It makes sense. But nowadays, we don't have that transition. And because we don't have those types of transitions, I believe we see the same thing happening in community. That we don't have the same we don't have the traditions in our homes. We don't have the traditions that guide people from one step to the next in their leadership journey, in their development. We skip steps because of the internet. Now we got 7-year-olds with internet pages making a whole bunch of money off of toy endorsements. But he don't know how to balance a checkbook. He got somebody else to do it. And there are things that people are missing opportunities to learn to put a part in their development. So in my book, I posit that, listen, if we just restored the leadership transfer model, meaning I as an older person say, I'm not going to be a leader or in this position of leadership forever. I'm only going to be here for a limited amount of time. And if I know that I'm going to be here for a limited amount of time, why not use the time that I have to pour into people who will have to take this up after me? Yeah. Because once I walk out, there's this thing that we don't get to see anymore. And these are older people who remain in the business, not in a high level position, but they're there just to be able to support the people who are left behind, or just to support the subordinates. I'm here for y'all.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We don't have that, and we don't make a big deal out of it. But I posit that if we did, we would have more people transitioning into leadership, looking forward to leadership, and then being able to hold on to it better, longer, and doing more with it.
One of the guys I've been following for the longest time is Michael Hyatt.
Okay.
Michael Hyatt, former CEO of Thomas Nelson Publishing, one of the largest Christian publishing companies in the world. He left Thomas Nelson, started his own leadership development mentoring firm. And this past week, when we're recording this conversation, this past week, or maybe it was last week, he stepped down as the CEO of his own company, and he made his daughter the CEO. He can still go. He still has tons of energy. He still has tons to offer. He's the founder still, but he said, you know, running this company that I started that bears my name, I'm going to step out of the way and give it to my daughter because she's more than capable of handling the job. And it would be amazing what we would see, not just in our local churches, but in all sectors, public and private sector. If we had, like you said, that leadership transformation model where a leader says, listen, I'm not going to be here forever. Let me start pouring into and supporting the next generation of leaders. So, man. So talk to us, Dr. Brooks, man. When can we get first, who are the types of individuals that at this stage of your life and ministry and, you know, the calling and how you're working with organizations, who are the types of individuals that you want to reach out to you? I know primarily we're on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
And I want everyone to check out Dr. Delroy Brooks and his LinkedIn profile and be sure to connect with him. But outside of even LinkedIn, who are the types of individuals and organizations that you're looking to connect with?
You know what? I am looking to be able to, this morning I posted on Instagram, this year, I'm rooting for everybody Black. So what I want to be able to do is to pour into our businesses, small business or large businesses in diversity areas to teach how we are able to transmit and transfer leadership. And being a leader doesn't mean you're the name on the top line. Yeah. Everyone can lead and everyone has a sphere of influence. And if social media has shown us anything, that we can all garner followers and we can all follow. We all do it in one area or another. So the people that I would be looking to, I'm obviously church leaders to help them develop their young people at their churches. But outside of that, community leaders to try to mobilize your young people to care about the places where they live. How do we motivate them? Because we need them right now. And we don't need them to be angry in the streets, breaking stuff up. Not that I'm telling you not to do it, because there's some places where that needs to take place. But we also have to be able to work in a way that we can get young people mobilized and organized for systemic change. I recently finished Stacey Abrams' book, Minority Leader, or Leading from the Outside, I think is the new title of it. And just listening to this woman talk about what it takes. There are people that we gotta have people that are willing to put boots on the ground. And at this point, at my age, I'm not always willing to go put my boots on the ground, but there's some young people that I can empower to do that and say, I got your back. In whatever situation we got, in one of the community organizations that I'm able to function with here in California, we talk about whatever civic engagement we're going to be in. You know, we got to have somebody on deck. Where are our lawyers in the event we'll need one? And where is the fund that we're putting money into in order to get people out of jail? You know, what are we doing to prepare for these things? At my church, at my local church right now, we're doing a 21-day fast, and our series for the year, my word for the year is next. And I'm telling everyone, and I'm teaching everybody right now, including you, we're always being prepared for what's next.
Yeah.
2020 prepared us for 2021. Regardless of what happens in 2021, that's what 2020's job was. And our job now is to recognize, what did I learn? What did 2020 teach me? So that I can apply it now, because my application of what I got in 2020 to now is preparing me for whatever God, I would say, it has for me, or what you might think of as the universe has for you next. Take advantage of it, because we're all here for a reason. I'm not even going to delve into the whole purpose conversation. That's for a whole lot of other people at another time. But that's what our responsibility is. Rather, you were asking me about who I would want to be connecting with. Those are the kinds of people I want to be able to connect with. And I think that they would see value in the book that I wrote, Restoring the Music.
I know you're a comic book superhero guy.
I am
as well. And I was thinking about a show that I used to watch. It's called Batman Beyond. You remember Batman Beyond?
Yes, Batman Beyond. That's with Terry McGinnis.
Yeah.
And Bruce Wayne, the old Bruce Wayne, pouring into Terry McGinnis. Yeah.
that idea that Batman could no longer, Bruce Wayne he did not have the strength to be Batman anymore. But he became that mentor and coach and voice for the next generation of leadership. I'm gonna have to do a series on Batman Beyond.
Amen. There's so much. I tell people all the time, because I'm churchy, that what we have, and you know, you saw my Instagram post a couple of days ago or last about my own comic book collection. That my journey into comic books was bolstered by my knowledge of the Bible. Now, I'll tell everybody now, I probably know more about comics than I do about the Bible, but the Bible is able to inform and teach before anybody came up with the fantastical ideas that we see present in Marvel, Dark Horse, DC, Wildstorm, whatever comic book press that you're reading. There were these exploits of these characters who were imbued by the power of God to do amazing things. So I was, moreover, I'm always pressed into, you know, we had superheroes. They were the Bible superheroes, and we used to think their powers was all whack. But if you consider that out, hey man, you got a dude that used to kill lions, tigers, and bears. Oh my. And then he took down a giant. Man, that dude you could make him any kind of superhero nowadays.
This is true. Hey, Dr. Brooks, how can we get a copy of your book? What's the best way to do that?
The best way to get the book, it's on Amazon right now. And you can download it to your Kindle. If you're a Prime member, you can actually get access to it as a borrowed book for free, I believe. But it's there. You just have to Amazon. You can put in Restoring the Music, and I think you have to put in my first name, and it'll show up there for you. Restoring the Music, developing a framework for leadership for African American young people. And that's it, because that's all I wanted to do. I wanted to restore those transitions of leadership, and I think there's space to do that, not only in the church realm, but in outside of that, especially in our communities where we're starving for prophetic leadership. We're starving for community leaders who can be trusted. I think that's the biggest problem that we're finding in the world today, is that we want to be able to trust somebody, and our political system has proven that they ain't it. I would just leave it at that.
Man, we've had a great conversation here. Courageous Conversations Live with my friend Dr. Delroy Brooks. And for all of you who have been hanging out with us on the various social media platforms, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube. Listen, if you're on LinkedIn right now, I'm going to invite you to click on the profiles of everyone else that you have seen make a comment during our live session, and even in the replay. Click on the profiles, get connected with those individuals as we grow our leadership community. And be sure to check out Dr. Delroy Brooks. Follow him on social media at the youth pastor.
That's it.
and check out his book on Amazon. And yeah, Dr. Brooks, thanks for hanging out, man. I really appreciate you joining me for Courageous Conversations.
Amen. I appreciate this greatly. Thank you for the opportunity. I want to just send blessing to you, your family, your daughters, that y'all continue to grow in the space that you're in, that God would expand your territory, man. I'm super proud of you. I'm glad to know you. And that in 5 to 10 years, I'm going to be telling my Pierre Quinn story. Man, I was online with Pierre Quinn, man, and he let me talk to him for 20 minutes. Just me and him. Now you got to spend so much money to be able to get that dude to you, man. I remember when.
I receive it. It. All right, Doc. We'll talk soon.
Sure thing, man. Take care.